Battle Line podcast. This is the first Annex episode we've done in a while. But the reason we're doing it, you guys know that it's election season, and it seems like every few elections, there's someone who comes out of the woodwork claiming to be something they're not. One guy, and this has all been covered by Stolen Valor at Stolen Valor 1 on X. They do a great job. They call out anyone who's just full of it, basically. One guy is in office, and his is a little bit more sketchy, I guess, and one guy is just a total liar. So I guess I'll cover the first guy who is actually a representative in Texas, Congressman Troy E. Nehls. Um, so he wrote a statement, and basically, if you look at the community notes, it says Nehls was erroneously awarded a combat infantryman's badge, which is only available to infantry and special forces. The order was revoked because he did not meet the requirements. Nehls was a civil affairs specialist, which is not eligible for military occupational specialty. So what he wrote here, I guess addressing this controversy, is he goes, "This will be my final written comment on my SIB," right? It should say SIB, not
Yeah,
CIB.
we say CIB. No, we still
Okay, on
do.
my CIB,
Yeah,
awarded by the 101st Airborne Division in 2008 and listed on my official military record, my DD 214.
yep.
In 2023, 14 years after my retirement, suddenly the Department of Army rescinded my CIB. According to correspondence I received from the Department of the Army, 142,596 CIBs have been awarded over the past 20 years. Of these, only 47 CIBs have been rescinded. So let me get this straight. The Department of the Army says the 101st Airborne Division has been 99.968% correct in awarding the CIB over the past 2 decades. Question mark. Unfortunately for me, as an America First patriot and an outspoken member of Congress, there are no lengths to which the establishment won't go to discredit me, including my CIB, which I was awarded over 14 years ago. Nothing more needs to be said. But as they fact checked him here, he was a civil affairs specialist and should have been awarded this. I think Dave Park said it best, who's a friend of the show, like, because he's been tweeting about this. Uh, Civilians, by and large, which is who votes in elections, because it's a small minority who really are veterans, we don't even know what a CIB is. That's why I'm
Well,
asking you, how many people are even voting based on that? So I don't know why. I don't know why guys have
well,
to,
well, was it? And that's what I'm not getting. Is it? Did they? Because the unit could have made a mistake too. Did the unit make a mistake and give him that CIB, or did
that's
he
what it
lie?
sounds
Or did,
like.
that's what it sounds. But that's where
That's why
I
this one's a little bit more on the
it is,
fence,
it
right? The
is,
other
it is.
guy, not on the
No, no,
fence.
this one, and it would be, and he could still get a combat action badge. Those are for non-infantry, non-SF guys. But they started to make it because the non-infantry people that were going over and fighting in the global on terror, like military police, civil affairs, SAPs that saw combat or were within a situation. Maybe they got in a roadside bomb and then somebody attacked them. It's still combat, even if you didn't shoot back. You're still in you're still getting shots of combat zone. They were giving people combat action badges because the non-infantry, non-SF people are like, wait a second, we're getting shot at and killed too. Can't we get a badge for that? So they made a CAB, a combat action badge. That's why I
But
see
there's a CIB.
this one's his, in which that's why it's so weird. It's like, why did you get a CIB? If you did see combat, then your unit should, and the units very rarely make this mistake. I've never seen a unit make a mistake. I've never even heard of a unit make a mistake before. But I'm like, why didn't you get a CAB then? Or have you never been in combat and maybe you made this whole thing up? So that's why
It
I'm
sounds
looking.
like he didn't make it up. It sounds
Yeah,
that
yeah,
doesn't seem to be the
it
case.
just it's just so weird, man. It's like, what the fuck? And I think he's doing the right thing by saying, you know what, fine, I'm done, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Whether he's correct or whether he's lying or not, I don't know. I'm with you, I'm on the fence on this one. But regardless, it's good that he's not doubling down. But brother, as politicians do, I see him getting attacked again, and I see him doubling down. The truth will prevail. It will. I just don't know why his unit gave him a CIB unless he was attached to an infantry unit, and for some reason a commander made a mistake, a clerical error, which is possible. He didn't get a CAB, a combat action badge that people that were non-infantry that saw combat were getting. that's the weird thing is why didn't he not even mention a combat action badge? Because I would have said, man, you know what? They made a mistake. I shouldn't have got a CIB. I should have got a CAB. Why didn't I get that? But he didn't even put that anything he wrote. So that's why I'm a little skeptical. Like maybe he is full of shit, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
I mean,
truth is, I feel like if you were to tweet at Stolen Valor One, which I know you have, they seem to be so on top of it,
he's on it. Yeah,
and I
yeah.
kind of go with whatever they say, truthfully.
Right.
But I think they'd be able to explain it because they are very well researched. They don't just throw out accusations with,
No,
for no reason. So yeah, I would definitely defer to them. Now, this guy, on the other hand, that we're going to address, totally full of shit. So this is a guy running for Senate in Arizona, Steve Slaton. I think he's running for Senate. I know he's running for something in Arizona. Steve Slaton, AZ. But anyway, he says basically this guy they looked up his records. He did serve in the military. He didn't. He worked on aircrafts, I believe, but he served after Vietnam. He enlisted in the military after the final troops were pulled out of Vietnam. So he was absolutely not a Vietnam veteran. And you want to talk about doubling down? He got called out, and then he's tweeting out, I am a Vietnam combat veteran. No left wing smear campaign will ever deny that fact. These people doing this are doing to me what the liberals did to my fellow Vietnam veterans decades ago when they returned spitting on them and mocking them. These are the same people who opposed patriots like Carrie Lake, who, by the way, endorses him. I really hope she walks that back. President Trump, Eli Crane, and Wendy Rogers, another person who endorses him. They are a bunch of establishment Chamber of Commerce rhino hacks who support Democrats more than Republicans. It is about 10 losers with no real power to do anything. They get everything wrong and are about as irrelevant as the paper their phony letter is printed on. So then, apparently, he had an event and a real Vietnam veteran called him out at the event. So I'm just going to read this recap from at Stolen Valor 1 on Twitter or X. So yesterday, and this is what they wrote yesterday, Steve Slaton, AZ, and Wendy Rogers, AZ, who's an Arizona state senator, held a public meeting in Arizona, after all this came out. We asked someone to record the meeting. They did, and they sent us the audio, which they have the audio up on here. During that meeting, Wendy lies about the process of getting someone's DD 214. She claims his 214 was illegally obtained, which she knows isn't true. His records were illegally obtained via a FOIA. She then claims Steve was on Airfinger's quote confidential missions for 4 months to Vietnam from Korea, which is another lie. Slaton is then called out by a real Vietnam veteran who earned a Purple Heart and questions him about where he supposedly flew out of and to produce orders for his service in Vietnam, which he couldn't do. The veteran immediately calls him out on his lies about this location and calls him a phony. Steve then claims his identity was stolen. This sounds ridiculous, right? And he
wow.
has an open investigation about this theft through the VAOIG. His identity wasn't stolen. He was just caught in another lie. Wendy and Steve, nothing about obtaining Steve's records was done illegally. If you were claiming it was that his identity was stolen to obtain them, then you must know they are the real thing and disprove your claim of flying in Vietnam. You're a liar, Steve. You never flew in Vietnam, and Wendy to support your blatant lies is even worse. So I don't
Right.
know how people aren't walking this back. It's almost, a similar thing to George Santos, where people are just they're on a certain team politically, and they're like, if we don't get this guy in here, we're not going to have a Republican majority. But they know he's lying. They
Right.
know his DD 214 shows when he enlisted, and I've spoken before about Senator Richard Blumenthal in Connecticut, who still
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a senator. But I will say, at least for him, he didn't double down like this when they called him out. And what he did was wrong, regardless. But when they called him out, he said, "Oh, I misspoke. I meant to say I'm a Vietnam era veteran." Now that's bullshit. But at least do
Well,
that. At least don't keep saying I was because we know you're full of shit, man. You know.
I don't know. I don't get why they do it regardless. It's such a disrespect to veterans. I mean, all veterans, everybody that served. Why use it for political gain? And you're going to get caught, especially in today's day and age. You're going to get caught if you're lying about your time in service. There's just too much information out there anymore. And I'm with you, dude. First of all, don't do it. it's not going to help you any. And all it does is, and if you're like, what's her name? I don't know the other, the lady, Mary, what, not Carrie Lake.
Wendy Moore, the state senator, Wendy
Yeah, the states,
Rogers.
the Wendy Rogers. Yeah, why support it? And you better back yourself too. And what it does to the party, it leads to less credibility in the party. It makes why wouldn't your own party? And we talked about it on the last podcast we had about checking your own. We got to
Yeah, which will
take
probably
care
be
of
up
our own.
after this,
Yeah,
but yeah.
okay, it's going to be on after with the walk the talk. But well, Republicans, guess what? Correct your own, man. Just like them, correct your own, but they don't. Yeah, and
Because they need, you know, it is, it's that razor thin majority that Republicans have. So that's why with George Santos, they were like, keep your mouth shut on this guy because we're going to lose our majority. And,
we're gonna.
you know, he was my congressman, right? And now we have some Democrat in there.
Well, see, that's the thing
But
is you're gonna in the long run you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose people. You're gonna like people like myself that center right, but really we don't really like Trump. I don't like it. I don't support it. I don't even know if I'm going to vote because of this kind of shit. It's like, well,
yeah, I don't know.
I'm
That
not
doesn't
voting
change my
left.
opinion on Trump. It changed my opinion on these
But
people.
it's the party, man. To me, it's like, man, because I'm not affiliated with the party. I can't vote in the primary here, and I don't want. And you're like, well, you need to, but then shit like this happens. Like, no, I don't want to be affiliated with the party because of this. Now,
Yeah,
if
but that
somebody's
actually is the good thing about being in a party because then you could primary these guys
primary
out
these
when they
guys
are in a
out,
primary.
it,
But
it just
yeah, you know
sucks,
what? And
dude.
you
It
you
just
just
sucks.
spoke about this when you said in this day and age. I think some, like this guy's kind of an older guy, right? And I think someone like George
Maybe
Santos
he's
should
out
know
of,
better.
yeah, no,
But
this
some of
guy's out
these
of touch.
boomers, I think what it is they went their whole lives bullshitting. And it was very easy in the
Easy,
90s to
yeah.
lie. Like I think people who are younger than me forget that there was a time where we didn't have a device where you could look up everything on everyone. So it was very easy to be a liar in the 90s. You could be like, oh, I was an astronaut back in the 1970s. And you'd have to be like, all right, well, I guess I'll take this guy at his word. But nowadays, I don't know how you don't get it. We could find out information on everyone. You don't have to illegally obtain a FOIA,
No,
as these guys are saying. We could see when you enlisted and you're going to get called
well,
out. So not only do you lack credibility and are you unethical, but I also just think you're so stupid to not realize people are going to find out the truth.
there's that. You definitely don't do your due diligence just to make sure that your backstory checks. So how can I depend on you running running anything in government if you're not even willing to do the own due diligence on yourself? And you're right, man. And if for those veterans that we use all my stuff is online. I'll do all my veterans health stuff, and I love it. I'm glad they've finally got this figured out. I can get every record that I've ever been in. It's online. And it's right, boom, I'm searching for it. So when they say, well, I can't obtain my records, bullshit. It's all online. Even back then, guys, they have all those hard copies. It's all photocopied. And so you can go online and find your orders, any order, any DD 214, any pay stub. You can go to your veteran health and you go to ID me or you go to your veteran affairs login and every record is there.
But
And
he was on super secret
he was
missions.
on
They're so
Oh my
classified.
God. How many times I've heard that? I was with GRS. You were. When were you GRS? This and this thing. I don't remember you. Well, I was super secret classified SEAL Delta Ranger back in the Cambodia doing Rambo shit classified. You don't have any record of me. Yeah, whatever. As soon as I hear that, and Park, David be the same way. He'd be
Yeah,
like,
that's what he was writing.
yeah,
Yeah.
he'd be like, yeah, right, buddy. Yeah, sure you were. All right. Drive
And
on,
he's a guy
troop.
who's got a crazy resume. I mean, how many people do you know that were a Navy diver, Marine,
I
and
know,
Army Ranger? You know, but
and
he could back it up.
he
He
can
did
back
it.
to any and Dave's just a great guy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what he's the real deal because you meet Dave and he's just like, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty much, yeah, you have, dude. Yeah, I got you. But it just kills me. Literally, it kills me that these idiots do that. And then the party lets it go because of what you said. And I know what you're saying, bro, because of that thin line. But then they wonder why they have no credibility or why they lose credibility or why you lose people don't trust the government. Well, this is another reason why. Not the only reason, but it's another reason why. And it's just so fucking disrespectful. That just burns me up. So I'm glad I follow the Stolen Valor guys on X. I think they do
Yeah.
good stuff. I don't ever want to get that much into it because man, I can just imagine that group is probably a bunch of angry motherfuckers all the time, but they do a great job. So, if they're saying what it is and they do the due diligence, then I believe them. I believe what.
Yeah, and it's like I don't care about covering it when it's this, some idiot at the mall cosplaying as an army ranger. I don't care about
No,
that. Most
no.
of those people are severely mentally ill.
Yeah.
But I think if you're running for office, man,
Yeah.
and you're going to represent people, you need to be called out on as many platforms as possible. And
Yeah.
the fact that this guy Steve Slaton is a military veteran who actually did serve immediately after Vietnam, people would respect that.
Yeah.
People
Why?
people would love to hear I served after Vietnam and, whatever other credentials he has. And you'd probably get the same type of voters. I don't know
You
what
would.
causes you to say, I need to, make up a totally fictional story about myself
And
and also to double down on it because do these guys suddenly believe it? Because like you would remember when you enlisted. There's no way that you misspoke about this
No,
stuff,
you don't. You remember though that I remember exactly when I enlisted. I remember my first day getting into Fort Benning. I remember basic training like both times. They're vivid. Those things are life changing moments where you do change. Your personality change. Your outset on life change. Your physically start to change via pain. And so to not remember that was always a red flag to me. Where'd you go to basic training? I don't remember. Really? Okay, are you sure? All right, well, let's just keep talking now, but red flags are up. But I'm in complete agreement, man. But I'm agree with you too. It's like you were right after Vietnam. Basic training was no freaking joke back then. So you weren't in Vietnam. You were still going through basic training when they were still throwing people around. All your drill instructors were ex-Vietnam vets. It was like Full Metal Jacket. That's pretty damn respectful, even for somebody like me that has seen combat. I am respect the hell out of that guy that, well, I didn't see any combat. Bullshit, you didn't. That Vietnam veteran drill instructor, I bet showed you a lot of combat going through basic training. And I like, why? Why not just say that? That's good. That's perfect. And you would get the same voters. I agree with you. Why do they do it? Insecurity. It's the little dick syndrome. It's like, man, I didn't do it now. And that's what it is. It's completely insecurity. And that's on them. But do we want somebody like that in office? So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's weeding them out where maybe we wouldn't have been able to weed somebody out that has that personality, which isn't insecure. And I'm gonna get where he's gonna come after us for defamation, so I won't say that other part again. But that insecure, unsure of yourself personality, where I have respect for the guy because he served at that time, and I
But
think
you lost
many.
that respect when he
But
lied.
but yeah, but you completely lost it. Thank you. Completely lost it with him embellishing and not embellishing, just straight up lying, and now continuing to lie about it. And it's like, dude, you know, why? But I answered my own question with the insecurity. That's exactly why guys, men and women, not just men and women do it, and they
Yeah.
embellish
Yeah,
and go overboard.
because yeah, it's the truth. Like, I don't think that this is getting you any financial gain. I don't think it's going to get you any more votes. It's going to get you less votes. And whether it's Carrie Lake or this state, who I generally like on a lot of things, or this state senator Wendy Rogers, you got to put your morality and being objective before your party.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that you're just gonna keep going on and endorsing someone after all this comes out. I don't get it.
No, man,
Um,
it just hurts the party and it hurts your name in the long run. It does.
yeah,
So
oh,
it does.
absolutely. So,
Yep.
yeah, guys, we'll try to do more of these annexes when something comes up. As always, keep locked to the podcast. We got some great interviews coming up, and we always appreciate you checking us out.